Hello, I'm Aphrodite Dinatis. Today on Ask Aphrodite, I will be talking to zealous, compassionate, and very accomplished attorney at law from West Vancouver, BC. Please welcome Jenny Cochrane. Hello, Jenny, and welcome to Ask Aphrodite.
Hi, thank you so much for having me, Aphrodite.
Jenny, can you please tell us what inspired you to become an attorney?
Well, since high school, I've been inspired by social justice issues. I think it took till adulthood to really understand them more completely, but I knew that in some parts of the world, for example, through a research project I did in high school, that people suffer much more than I did. And so I wanted to advocate for, and the one example that sort of started my thoughts on that, the Afghani women experiencing human rights issues where they lived. And then from there, I have a best friend who's half Navajo, so she's Native American in the US. I'm from the US, and so the First Nations population in both countries has become more and more of a passion. So I've worked in, as a lawyer, estate planning for those folks as well, and that was in the States, and then here in residential school abuse claims specifically.
Excellent. Jenny, I understand you are licensed both in Washington State, USA and British Columbia, Canada. Can you please tell us where are your offices located?
Yes, we're on Howe Street here in Vancouver, across from the courthouse. I work through a firm, Bronstein and Company. We've had more and less attorneys depending on the time, so now there's two of us. And then I have my own firm in Bellevue, Washington, which is across from Seattle, Washington.
Wonderful. Can you please tell us which areas of law do you practice at the moment?
Well, I have several primary areas, but I have had the fortune or interest in working in many areas. And so when someone comes to me, I can be the attorney or lawyer who can advocate for them in what comes their way. But presently and for some years, I would say immigration and family law and real estate, as well landlord-tenant disputes and contract litigation or preparation in forming contracts in both small businesses and for individuals. And then there are many other areas beyond that. For example, consumer protection and bankruptcy in the States, but it's too long a list for a short interview.
Jenny, if you were to choose one area of law that you are the most passionate about, what would it be?
Well, I think that in the US, since our current presidential administration, I'm very passionate about defending immigrants being sent out of our country. And there's a lot of pro bono work involved there because no one can afford it. It's a very difficult, complex area and hard on families. But in Canada, it's quite different. I like to help people with immigration in Canada in their proactive applications for immigration status, both in family and employment matters. As well, I do that work in the US. I don't know that I have a favorite. That's kind of my current favorite, perhaps. But I work in several other areas just as commonly. I have a couple probate matters in Canada, for example, for ongoing clients. And so that relates to estate planning, and then my family law work is always a big passion. I've done a ton of litigation work in family law, so I'm always happy to help people in that area.
Thank you. And viewers, Jenny Cochrane is a very humble person. She's actually very accomplished. She's a faculty member of National Business Institute out of Seattle, and she's been invited as a guest speaker for several years. Jenny, can you please tell us about this experience?
Yeah, through that company as well as others, I've been invited to speak to lawyers in the population, as well teachers and other members of the public, for example, parents, with regards to primarily education law and family law, but as well in some other areas as they've come up. And so speak for some hours in a day, along with another couple speakers on those topics.
Excellent. And you're also so involved in community work. You are a member of a networking group. The most recent one is a women's group. Can you please tell us about it? What it is?
Well, there's, so locally in the Seattle area, there's a group called Mamas. My networking here in Vancouver has been more organic than this. I'd like to encourage formation of similar group here, both in supportive mothers who are attorneys and also as that group Mamas is, and also in support of networking specifically for women, although we encourage cooperation amongst our partners and friends who are guys as well. But it's nice to be part of groups of women mutually empowering each other as professionals. So the networking group that's kind of a sub-branch of that is called Ladder Down. And we just organize around how to better promote ourselves and support each other in our business.
Thank you. And as such an accomplished attorney, what advice would you give to the young female who wants to become an attorney at law?
Well, certainly I would say really nurture your own strengths and as well your own confidence, because I think women, we tend to take on sort of caring for the world, sometimes more than guys do, caring for the men and children and people in our lives. And we don't necessarily take care of ourselves as much, or we don't recognize our own strength as much as we should otherwise. So for example, from the very beginning in Seattle, when I became a lawyer, I worked for myself or for my clients. And people don't usually do that. Usually people work for a firm. But I was encouraged through a number of informal meetings I set up with other attorneys to go ahead and, you know, hang out my own shingle, as they call it, and start my own business. And it's a lot of work, but it's very self-empowering to do your own thing, as you know, as a business owner. So I would say if you think you might have that skill, that's an option either way. You know, don't sell yourself short. Surround yourself with positive, supporting people. If you don't have that in your natural family, then seek it out, because life is short and you can't be brought down by people who don't get it.
Couldn't agree more. Jenny, in such a busy schedule, so many demands, deadlines, and also being a single mother of a teenage son with autism, how do you do it? How do you manage it all? How do you balance your life?
Well, it takes a village to raise a child. I mean, I think, you know, it isn't infrequent that people hear about my background and what I'm up to and think it's kind of shocking that I can get things done in a day, but I mean, it really isn't just me. As well, I support people who are supportive of myself and my son and my business. So I have a number of great staff members in my law practice as well. My son has great support in his schooling and with his dad, as well as with therapies that are great for him. And I'm sort of fortunate too, with my son being a very easygoing guy. So he's the best companion. But I think it's about sort of organizing your day and scheduling things and asking for help when you need it and being good to people, and that will come back to you.
Wonderful. And there's one more question in regards to your law practice now during the COVID pandemic. Is there anything specifically that you do to cater to specific needs of people who are maybe suffering because of the pandemic? Can you elaborate, please?
Yeah, definitely. In family law matters and in, well, there's some sub-aspects of family law involved, protection orders and harassment issues, and then separately landlord-tenant issues, both the landlord side and the tenant side. There's particular needs that are quite different. And people's employment and economic situation is different, so they might be needing employment insurance assistance more or other benefits help. And so there's some different ways I can help businesses or individuals with their needs there. And then to, in the landlord-tenant context, ensuring they can have a viable tenant as a landlord, or in the reverse, that they don't get evicted if they can't pay, and accessing resources there and defending or dealing with litigation if it comes up. And then in the family law context, I found, interestingly, there's been more harassment or frustration people are dealing with. I think there's more stress out there under COVID, and so people are reaching out to seek help in navigating like neighbors who are bothering them in some way, or if people aren't able to be evicted, for example, it might mean that they are doing things against regulation and such in their community, but they can't be evicted, so then the person who's bothered is misbehaving. So it's a really complicated dynamic. But yeah, COVID impacts every every client that calls me, but sometimes the legal context is shifted because of it too. So we're able to kind of roll with the punches and navigate that along with them.
Wonderful. Jenny, please tell us where can we find you?
Well, I'm improving my use of social media for my business, but it is out there. So I have a Facebook page, and I have also an Instagram page that I'm improving on. But I also am available by email and phone, probably are the best ways. My email is jennycochran@jcochranlaw.com. And I think, and my website is jcochranlaw.com. So, as well, my phone number, that is also an easy way to contact me, which is 236-412-0356. That's the quickest way to reach me. But and then Facebook messages are fine too.
Thank you, Jenny. It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on the show today. Thank you so much for coming to Ask Aphrodite and agreeing to being interviewed. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And I wish you all the best too. I'm glad to support.
And thank you for watching, everyone.